Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Ball Games. This is our ELD Legacy Open Round 1. Nick on Yorion and Taxes versus Brian on Beans. This deck is wild. 1 in a green enchantment. This thing comes down, draws a card when it ETBs, and then whenever you play a spell with mana value 5 or greater, you're drawing a card. Really turns all of your expensive cards into just incredibly efficient card drawing. And by expensive, I mostly mean free. Sometimes cheap, but I mean things like Force of Will, your Murktide Regents, Hooting Mandrills, anything that's got that big mana value printed on it that you're playing for free or cheap is just going to be made better by Up the Beanstalk. And I mean, it's just slotted very, very powerfully into Delver. Really what Delver's always going to want. Expressive iteration, going back to cards like Gush. I mean, that's really what a Delver strategy is looking for, is some type of card advantage, making all of their trades that much more potent when you're trading off lands with Wasteland or creature removal, bolting their guy. If you're outdrawing your opponent, eventually you're going to end up with a handful of resources and your opponent's going to have absolutely nothing to work with. Very easy to close out the game from there. Another Up the Beanstalk. So now, a Force of Will, you're looking at Force Pitch blue card, but then draw 2. So you're going down 0 cards in hand, and your opponent is just out of whatever their game-winning card was. Unbelievable. There's a Aether Vial just off screen there. Just allowed for these Mother of Runes. Those are well suited to a long defensive struggle, and, I don't think that's where you want to be versus Beans. I think you're going to need to get down some type of clock, a Cauldron, something that's going to be able to close the game out. Otherwise, they're just going to overwhelm you with card advantage. Swords to Plowshares. Storm. Scry trigger first. There's a big difference between playing in paper and Magic Online. We've definitely seen that. We'll come in not having played very much paper. Super easy to miss your trigger. The Force of Negation made live. Dragon Rage sticking around for at least a little while. Recruiter of the Guard finding Stoneforge Mystic. So Nick a step closer to actually getting his Cauldron into play. Yeah, it is actually going to be Cauldron. That does make a lot of sense. It's at its best in these type of matchups. Decks that run white can sometimes answer Cauldron just a bit too cleanly. Of course, Death and Taxes can reset it with Flicker Wisp. Reason why it gets the nod over Batter Skull, I would say. Can actually reset it. If you weren't able to do that, I mean, it really does. The wheels fall off of this card quite a bit. Of course, Yorion, very good at doing that as well in the late game. Oh no. Hooting Mandrills. So not going to stand up to Cauldron well in combat, but it's going to make those counter punches so much stronger. Ooh, and a Murktide. Too bad it didn't line up in the opposite order. Moving cards to delve out Hooting Mandrills, growing Murktide. A powerful interaction. See what Nick's able to do here. 16 life. It's like it almost might as well be 20 life. That's 4 swings currently. Oh, nice. Flicker Wisp. Resetting that Murktide. And here comes Cauldron. 5 damage coming across the bow. 17 life. That is a ways to go. Other runes now able to help out. Protect the Flicker Wisp. Dying down. Murktide looking to block it. Or Dragon Rage Channeler. It's a little bit of a decision. You know, the Murktide can get bigger with the help of other Delve cards, whereas the Dragon Rage gives that card selection. If I don't have any answers for it, I'd probably be more concerned here. It's tough. Maybe you just go with the Dragon Rage. I guess the other side of that is if you do trade with the Murktide, then the Dragon Rage has to attack later, potentially. I think I convinced myself to take out the Murktide. Let me know in the comments what you would... If Brian attacks, even. We'll see what he's able to do. He may not be able to attack into this board. Did Nick just take a point of damage? What is that, like a lava dart? Big Mandrills. Throwing Murktide. Some plays. On some cards. And a lot of damage. 9 incoming. That Hooting Mandrills trample is just a form of evasion here. Usually Recruiter of the Guard would be happy to block an incoming ground creature. Mother of Runes could keep it around, but that is not so much the case. Alright, looking to take some trample damage. Allow the rest in the air. 1 Mandrills is cleared. And a lot of the time those effects, those type of blocks over time accumulate, you know, in your favor. You're kind of managing your opponent's side of the board, but, you know, with 2 up the beanstalks, you didn't really handle the Mandrills. The Mandrills also got 2 other cards into Brian's hand. Haven't undone all the damage from that card. 2 more swings. And Mother of Runes can make sure it gets across, potentially. Right now, it would need protection from red and green in order to guaranteed to make it across the bow. Dragon Rage presumably no longer has Delirium. It did not attack. All right, what a closely contested game. Thinking through the possibilities, I mean, this is probably not much to do. I mean, probably thinking about all the different things that can happen, but they just need to say go if you don't have a play to make. 2 mana that he's got open. Oh, here we go. Solitude. Up the beanstalks. Looks like that must have been a Force of Will. Solitude denied. Ryan just up 2 cards, so Force pitch blue card. Solitude pitch white card. Spells. Something else. I don't know what that Aether Vial is on. Is off screen. Vialing in Solitude also a potentially strong line in a deck that can make use of Violet 5 thanks to Yorion. Alright, here we go. Hooting Mandrills, Murktide, and Dragon Rage coming across. I don't know if Delirium's back online. I guess we'll have to figure it out based off of how much damage Nick takes. So Flicker Wisp, then soaking up 4 damage on the Hooting Mandrills, giving protection to both of the bigger creatures. So these moms are going by the wayside, and a Brazen Borrower. So Brazen Borrower bouncing the Stoneforge Mystic, so 2 damage coming in, and I believe that Dragon Rage Channeler must have been back at Delirium thanks to the Force of Will. Wow, what a crazy match so far. All right, game 2, Nick's going to have the option. Probably going to be hoping for something like Aether Vial. Thalia didn't show up at all last game, which is kind of a criticism of Yorion and Taxes. I understand it has put up some results, but overall, I mean, you just don't see Thalia nearly as much. 80 card deck as you do in your 60 card build. Skyclave Apparition, looking to take out Dragon Rage Channeler, 3 mana spell, but it leaves behind a body. Ooh, and a hard cast Daze. Daze is actually totally reasonable versus Death and Taxes. A lot of Delver players will sideboard out their Force of Wills or grindier matchups. I suspect that's not the case with the Beans builds, as you're so happy to be drawing cards off your forces. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are as far as sideboarding goes versus Death and Taxes. Would you leave in Force of Will? Mother of Runes. Shot and Port, trying to slow things down a little bit. Storm. Kills a Bauble. Pretty much exactly what you want to be doing with Bauble, just getting it out of the way and getting on to the next card. Did its job. Card away from Delirium already. Instant artifact. Fetch land ready to go into the bin. Sorcery or creature. Brian's going to be looking at a more significant clock. Oh, Daze again. Interesting. So he's actually really planning on keeping this card. I mean, he could have paid. He could have fetched and paid for the Daze. Instead, he got it in hand. This could be inaccurate, or he could be planning on putting it back with a Brainstorm. There's our Murktide. And Dragon Rage Channel, making great use of his mana. Recruiter of the Guard gets a Force of Willed. Got 2 Scries. Just keeping that graveyard full for future delves. Life from the Loam. Loam, no targets? Does he have no targets in there? Just a mill 2. I guess so. But he doesn't end up milling to. He just plays Life from the Loam just to scry, and he's happy with what's on top. It's all turning sideways. Down to just 2. Could be a bolt on top. This is not looking good for Nick. 18 damage to do, and he's just got 1 power on board, and yeah, that's a wrap. The good outing for Temur Beans. Kick off the ELD Legacy Open.